Welcome to Getting Home Sourced with G. Your one-stop shop for all things real estate. Gianno is your go-to guy with over 25 years of experience in the game, serving up the insider scoop on buying, selling, and investing in two of the hottest markets, Las Vegas, Nevada, and Cabo, Mexico. Whether you're looking to score the perfect home, seal the deal on a sale, or dive into the world of international investments, G's got the tips, tricks, and swagger to make it happen. Remember, in Nevada, the smart choice is the right choice. And when it comes to Cabo, you better go oceanside with Cabo G. If you were looking for a quiet, tranquil show about real estate, this ain't it. Gianno has this thing called passion. Let's unleash the beast. This is Welcome to Getting Home Sourced. And now your host, Gianno.
Hey, what do you say? Hey, folks, thanks so much for tuning in, as always, at Getting Home Source with G, as I'm your host, Gianno. I mean, what can I say, folks? Every day is action-packed goodies, and this one, like, of course, all the other ones, right? It just keeps getting better and better, but, of course, I have a lot to cover. I want to jump right into it, but, of course, I want to say to everybody, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to wherever you're listening around the world. Thank you so much. As you know, my repeat offenders, you drive the show each and every week. So thank you so much for tuning in and telling your friends. And for all my newbies and my first timers, I welcome you in. Thank you so much for joining our family, La Familia, our community. We want to get out to the people. So thank you so much. Hopefully you love the show and you tell your friends, and that's how we grow, right? We just get bigger and better with our audience, with our listeners. And of course, as always, for my first timers who are listening for the last couple of shows, or this is your first time show, I have a great website, www.vegashomesource.com. Subscribe to the newsletter, go into the newsletter section, check that out. Also, remember, folks, again, if you haven't been paying attention or going in lately, we have our MLS tab for Mexico, which gives you all the houses, not just my listings, but just everything available for sale in Los Cabos, Mexico, as well as Las Vegas, Nevada, in the United States. So check that out. Also, feel free to reach out. We have our virtual assistant, Miss G. She's here for you. In case we don't communicate, you reach out to her. You call my toll-free number. It's toll-free G, 888-528-2810. And, of course, have my domestic friends. Just put the 702 in instead of the 888. Same number. You're ready to roll. And with that, like I said, you got everything at your fingertips. We're here for you. We're getting things going. We're making things happen. But in today's show, I'm titling What to Look For. So, I mean, if we take a step back and we always ask ourselves, what am I looking for? Like,
well, to be honest, I've never been so scared. But at least I have a husband.
What are we looking to do in 2026? What's the change? What's the energy factor? What's happening and what's going on? Do I want to buy a house? Do I want an investment property? Do I want to invest overseas? Well, people are doing these things already, folks, because of the fact that they have their own vision quest. They have their vision board. They see it. They put affirmations out there. They feel it. They touch it, and they want to do it. And for folks, if you don't know what a vision board is that you could take, cutouts of magazines. You have quotes. You have images and visions, and you put it on a cork board. You just tack it in there, put it up on the wall, or put it up on your refrigerator or your bathroom, wherever. And you're just looking at it, and you're just envisioning, like, this is where I want to be. I want to be with ocean waves and beaches and beautiful property. I wake up every morning. I have an investment property. I'm making money. I'm making an investment, and what have you. So they go out and they make it happen. And why? Because they're doing what most people unfortunately don't do. They're researching, they have the data, they have the facts to make their dreams come true. So this is what I want to tackle today, folks. This is what I want us to look for in the acquisitions of buying a property, of buying an investment, of maybe buying overseas or wherever you're living. You can even buy in your own city, in your own country, and what have you, your own state, right? So, but we need to get the information. So in this show, I have some interesting nationwide statistics of what's happening in the United States and maybe in your part of the world too, because you can kind of, relate to that. But for starters, let's acknowledge that again, data drives all housing markets, but media controls it. And sometimes, unfortunately, it's a negative conversation. And that's not good for consumers to listen to, because then what happens? When you tell a lie long enough, it becomes a truth, right? We've
Tell them the gear is down and we're ready to land.
been there, done that. But at the end of the day, again, the media, look, they're good for some things, maybe the weather and sports, but outside of everything else, people are all tuning away from the opinionated news channels, if you even have news, and you're getting it where? You're getting it on social media, you're getting the live, you get the truth, you're seeing what's going on. Sometimes words and video don't tell 1,000, pictures, and they don't tell 1,000 words, but at the end of the day, you're still you're deciphering, you're going through it, because again, we talked about last week how we're getting drowned in all this, information, super highway, and we kind of like lose sight of like, what do we actually believe? Like, where are we going? What's happening with all things that are happening in the world, right? So with those conversations with media, in my opinion, they have it all wrong, because they're just putting stuff out there to what? Get headlines, because negative headlines sell newspapers, and negativity in general get people's ire. It gets them all fired up, and it gets them to show some type of what? Emotion. And what's real estate? Based upon what? Emotion. So this is all the manipulation and the strings that are being pulled like a puppet master in the backyard, and they're hanging the puppet in front of the window, and you're all happy, but you don't know who's pulling the strings, right? So that's kind of like my analogy I put on it. But to get into it, when just to have an understanding of housing markets and real estate markets in general, when the demand is slow and rates are high, and when you have an uncertain economic situation, what happens? Buyers don't buy, right? They just get nervous, and what sets in? We talked about this before, folks. Fear, right? Because fear is the true evil of stopping you in your foot tracks and not moving anywhere. So this we have to pass on, and we have to move forward from. But the cause for this is what? And at least in the United States, we have a structural housing shortage since 2008, when we had our major crash year, and we really haven't built enough homes to equal the demand year over year for the last almost 20 years, right? So that's a concern. Now, in Las Vegas, in the United States alone, institutional buyers bought 100,000 homes in the last 5 years, especially after COVID. And what happens with that? They make those rental properties, and then you have that shortage of what? Inventory. So what happens when you have a shortage of inventory? Drives the prices up, right? So that's another issue that has to be addressed as well. Are they going to put the clamps down and stop having these big hedge funds and Wall Street financial institutions, or just regular institutions, coming in here and just gobbling up everything? And now you can't have it for the average family person or a first-time home buyer to go and purchase, or even mom and pop investors are getting squeezed out because they can't compete, because they want to go borrow money from the bank to do a flip opportunity, rehab it, turn around and flip it. And what happens? They're getting knocked out of the box because they have a cash person coming in, overpaying probably for the property, or just they can get it done quicker. And that's what happens. So that's the things that we have to kind of, forecast and see what's happening this year. However, for those that don't know, Las Vegas, for basically the end of 2025, so let's just say January 1st of 2026, has 2.3 million people. Well, just a little bit under it, but I'm just going to round it up. Let's just say 2.3 million people. Now, folks, that's a lot.
That's the whole story there, Rex. Everything we know.
So out of 2.3 million people living in Las Vegas, we have right now 3 months worth of inventory. Now, that's what I call a lock-in effect, right? Because now what happens is that you have it where the rates are not low enough, and then you have the prices that are too high. People are crying about affordability. And now we're set in what? We have a gridlock market, right? So hence, there's going to be no crash, because that's not happening yet, and there's no boom. So we're kind of stuck in the middle right now. And I don't know about the other cities and states across the United States, but I could tell you right now in Vegas, there will be no crash. There will be no boom. We're just gridlocked and that locked in effect. So now with Vegas, just to give you a perfect example, we saw 28,000 homes that were sold for calendar year 2025. Now that was down 9% from our peak in 2017, right? And then when you go up to 2019, we were at a 30% drop. But again, what to look for as going into 2026, we're going to see that 10% increase from this year, as we call a year over year, which means that now we'll probably sell about 31,000 homes at the end of calendar year 2026. So that means we get an extra 2,800 homes on the market and hopefully get a 10% gain, because the existing 3-month market means no softening up, because you may even see multiple offers if the property is ready to go, clean, turnkey, drop furniture, put your clothes in there, and you're setting up shop. For those that need work and help and what have you, that's where we get into the negotiations that we talked about before, that negotiated market, where now it's about buyer terms and conditions rather than about price, right? So now with the end of 2024, just to give you an example, December 2024, the Las Vegas median price was 480,000 US dollars. At the end of 2025, right, just a couple of weeks ago, now we were at 475. So in essence, it's a flat housing market. I mean, it's not great, it's not bad, but it's still a flat market, which means what? Gridlock, right? We just talked about it, and locked in effect. So that's what's happening. That's what we're seeing playing out. So for a buyer, you actually have a good opportunity to get in and buy, because like we talked about before in my past show, things are going to change, folks. It's going to flip come the summertime of, like I said, June, July, August 2026. You're going to see major changes take place in the U.S. housing market. But for right now, it's that ho-hum, walking straight. It's like you're going for a jog. You know what songs you're going to play. You know the path you're going to take. That's exactly how the housing market's going to be for the first and second quarter, at least in Las Vegas. So people already know it's just cruise control until things change. Now, on that note, let's take a quick commercial break, no pun intended. We're going to keep it in neutral. When I come back, we're going to do a deep dive further into what to look forward to in 2026. So follow me, and we'll be right back after these commercial messages.
Would you like to get your question put on the air? Would you like your voice to be heard? Well, write into our show by emailing us at info@vegashomesource.com and ask us anything you want or need to know about real estate. Remember, folks, we are here to give you what other realtors don't. Access to the source directly and, more importantly, access to an MLS service to search for homes in Las Vegas and Cabo San Lucas. Be a part of getting homes sourced by being part of the source.
Hey, what do you say? What do you say? Thank you so much for sticking around on the back half of our show, Getting Home Source with G, as I'm your host, Gianno. And like I said, folks, love you guys. You know it. I give my heart out to you. I put my heart out to the universe. I give my affirmations, and I really hope that all the topics that we're covering and all the material that we go over every week, it makes sense. You're understanding it. You're getting it. And that's the most important thing. Plus, when I say getting it, you're getting all the information. You're getting the tools. You're getting everything that you need. Again, the more it comes out, the more it's going to be shared with everybody. So that's what we do. We're street talk. We're straight talk. We tell it like it is. And if there's things that are breaking, obviously, I tell you. But I think it's important to start out, again, with this month of January. It's always important about the data and the research and the facts. And that's what I want to share with you, because I just want to have you take with you and just keep in mind that, you know what, you have to do the due diligence. You just can't just see what's on TV and believe what people say and whatever, because a lot of times people are getting secondhand information. You're not getting it from what? The source. Hence, that's why Getting Home Sourced with G, I'm getting the source. I'm doing the data. I'm doing the research. I want to give you the proper information. So moving forward, you know what's happening. So now, again, what to look forward to in 2026, whether you're buying or selling, and it's anywhere. These are the key three things that I came up with that I think people should take to heart and write it down. Put it on your refrigerator door, whatever. One, you got to be strategic. Two, you have to understand the housing market constraints. And three, you have to find clarity. There's just so much going on. This is why it's so important to put yourself and align yourself with people that are going to help you. That's why I always say I'm at your service. I'm here to help you. I want you to succeed. When you succeed, I succeed. This is the industry. It's a people person industry, and a lot of people just try to do the fast money and fast talk at the same time, and that's no good, right? So that's why each week we go through things. And like I say, folks, please, if you want me to cover a topic that you're interested in, as I always say, please email me, text me, call me, whatever. Say, hey, can you please talk about ABC, wherever you may be? We're going to cover it, okay? That's my commitment and promise to you. We will get you the information because I do have a big database and I am connected globally. That's why I said to you guys the last couple of shows that I'm the global real estate expert. I'm here for you because I will get you the answers. If I can't personally answer it for you, I'm going to get somebody that can.
You're the only chance we've got.
And I'm going to get you that information because we're not going to have ego in the way. You have to have the information. You have to have the data. You have to have the research. But please, folks, going into 2026, it's again shifting market, housing market, U.S. And when the U.S. housing market shifts, that also affects where I also work in Los Cabos, Mexico, because that is a big haven for Canadians and Americans that go and buy and invest property, and Europeans. So Europeans, my international friends, you have to pay, and also my friends from Dubai, again, the Middle East, I don't want to forget you guys as well. It's important. You have to watch what the U.S. housing market is doing because that affects your Americans that want to go overseas and buy property in Dubai or in the Emirates or in Saudi or in Europe or in the Middle East, wherever, okay? It's important to see because Americans, when they have the money, they're freewheeling, they want to spend, but they're also going to be what? They're going to be strategic, okay? They're going to understand what's going on in that particular country or city. And more importantly, that to find clarity, they have to get a purpose. Like, okay, if I do this, what's the outcome? Everyone wants to know what the outcome is going to be. Is it a safe position to buy or sell or what have you, right?
Your life jackets are located under your seat.
So that's why you see a lot of people, everybody's moving around. We talked about this last year about migration. People are buying in different countries and cities. Everybody's migrating. We're shifting. So you see that all over the board here around the world because, again, world events dictate change. And what happens when you have that stuff going on, that means that people now start to find clarity in what they're doing and where they're going and why they're doing it, right? So now back to the U.S., for instance, because I do want to tackle this key stat here. So now in the nationwide in the U.S., the driving job market right now is private education and health services, right? Because now baby boomers are getting older. Hospital costs, insurance costs, way too much. We talked about this before, folks, that in the United States as an American citizen, health insurance has just gone up 33% across the board for both an individual policy coverage and if you're working for a corporation. It's a lot of money, which there's no reason for that. That's a topic for a different show. We'll tackle that. But for right now, this is what's happening, right? But that's the job growth. So you get into that private healthcare. Hey, I can open up a nursing center and have elderly getting taken care of, and you have private nurses that go to your home, or just private education, private practices when it comes to health and medicine and what have you. And then you have private education. People want to get homeschooled. They don't want to send their kids to public school, and they don't want to send them to private school for whatever reason. They want to get their own home education. So people are doing private education as well, right? So those are the two big things. And then it rounds out with three, which is leisure and hospitality. And that makes up of what? International traveling and what have you, restaurants and hotels. And that's the other thing that rounds out the top three. Now, that affects home prices because now home prices have outpaced the earnings by 6%, meaning the debt is up, savings are down. Hence, this is what I've been saying for the last 2 months, folks. Short sales and foreclosures. It's here. It's live. It started in August. I told people this is what's going to happen. And sure enough, It's just an uptick. We said this in August. I said in August of 2025, watch until the end of the year. Boom. And what do you think's happening right now? Now you have these mortgage defaults from sellers. They're not paying. They're trying to work out a loan modification. They're trying to work out some type of like payment structure. Some banks are playing ball and some banks are not. But at the end of the day, this is where we're at right now. And so we have to watch out for that. Foreclosures, obviously, now we're getting that. And foreclosures are now, since 2015 nationwide, is really in a 10-year period from 2015 to 2025, we've seen a lot of market changes up and down. But really in that 10-year period, we really took a beating both during COVID and then also now. So it's kind of like that 5-year period, right? So always like always increments of 5 years. So it always begs the question, now that I say that, why is it that when you go on an interview for a job, they always say, well, where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? It's very interesting how that 5-year window or that 5-year phrase sticks in people's heads. Just food for thought on that. I just figured I'd just throw that out there, right? No. But at the end of the day, now we talk about visitorship coming into Las Vegas because, of course, people probably, listening to on the radio and the news, oh, Vegas is dead. Nobody's coming here and what have you. Well, Vegas has slowed down, but folks, it's certainly not dead by any means. And here's the reason why. Because now when you take your peak from Vegas travelers coming in from all over the world, yeah, it's down 10% from 2019, which was our peak right before COVID. But conventions are only down, the convention, meaning like the people visiting to go to conventions on a whole has dropped to 0.5%. That's really nothing. I mean, it's pretty much almost flat from 2019. If that, again, that was the peak of the convention season right before COVID came into play. So we may be down and out, but we're not dead by any means. People are coming here, they're buying, and they actually forecasted growth here will increase to 19% between now and 2035, which really, folks, it puts us like a 9-year out window. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens if they have that boom again, where you're having so many people coming over here. I don't know how that's going to happen when you have a 19% growth, where in Las Vegas, especially the state of Nevada, it's the #1 state in the United States where the federal government owns the land around the city. It's not free land. So between having the Indian tribes that are having some land, it's either between the Indians and it's also mainly the federal government. So now you have a problem where you have to go through a lot of paperwork, a lot of money, and a lot of time to open up land to go have more people living here. 19% increase in the next 9 years. Okay. I mean, hey, listen, it's like betting on, roulette table. It's either betting on red or black. We'll see what happens. I don't know, but that's going to be an interesting sign. 19%. That's pretty significant, at least in this town. But right now is, again, what I call, because of the gridlock, because of the locked in effect, what else do we have on the backside? On the seller side, we have seller fatigue. What does that mean? Well, seller fatigue simply means that sellers want to sell and move on, but it's too expensive to go and remodel their home or do a paint job or carpet or new appliances, whatever. They don't want to do it. They just want to leave, but they realize that if they do, they're not going to get that much value, because what the buyers come in, it's based upon terms, no longer the price what the seller is expecting. So there's your trade-off. There's that gridlock. There's that locked-in effect where now sellers, if the house is not in some kind of upgraded condition, let's say, you're going to have to basically give in, and it's like a hostage crisis situation. Yeah, I want to buy your house, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, but you're going to have to do A, B, C, and D for me in order for me to buy this property. This is what's happening. Unless it's turnkey, clean, and move-in ready, this is what's good. And when you have the move-in ready, by the way, folks, then you have to worry about what? The multiple offers. They're creeping around in some, properties, especially with the new homes, maybe. So you have to see what they're doing with the deals. We talked about new homes before, right? So this is what's happening. This is what's going on. And just to let you folks know, my international friends, that the average American seller usually stays in their house between 7 and 8 years if they bought it at a 3% mortgage rate, which was not so far ago, right? We had COVID, so 5 years ago. And in that time frame, you're looking at maybe 11%, average of people that want to get rid of their properties regardless of their mortgage rate. But when you have a 3% mortgage rate, and with the rates right now being at 6%, they're hovering. One day they'll be at 5.99, the next day they'll be at 6.125. But realistically, they're not really going anywhere, right? And if they do, 11% of them do it. But here's the thing. When people want to move, they have to ask themselves, well, where are they going to go? Why am I going to move if I have a 3% interest rate and now I have to go double my rate, which means I have to make X amount of dollars just to buy down my rate to make the same type of payments that I was making before when I had a 3%. So now, again, people then lead into this question. They say, well, our mortgage rate's going to go down. Are they going to hit rock bottom? Are they going to be at that 5% rate? And to understand mortgage rates, the reason how mortgage rates work, again, I know people get confused with when they hear on the news, oh, the Fed chair, the Federal Reserve, they're going to drop the rate down 0.25%. That means the mortgage rate goes down 0.25%. No. That does not work. Please, folks, don't get caught up in that, because it has nothing to do with each other, okay? It's like two cousins under a family, and they haven't spoken to each other for a while, and then somebody hears something about the cousin, and then they believe it to be true. That's the analogy that I give to people. Please don't get misinterpreted with that, because that is the furthest thing from the truth. The main thing to understand about mortgage rate is that in the economy, let's say of your country, right? The economy drives the mortgage rate. So at least here in the U.S., we already know that in order to be at a 3 to 4% mortgage rate, even to get back to that situation again, two things would have to happen. You'd have to have high inflation or a bad economy. Well, when COVID shut down and nothing was going on, the whole country shut down, at least worldwide anyway, that's where people grab the opportunity to get those 3-4% interest rates. Well, they're not really, again, they're not coming back, folks. People think that mortgage rates are going to come down, the housing market's going to crash. You have to do the data. People are listening to the wrong information, and I'm just telling you, this is just based upon my research, my data, and that's what I do, number crunch it out and spit out what I feel is important to say, because people give you a little bit of the headlines, like reading a newspaper, like, oh, Vegas housing market will crash in 2020. Well, what are you basing that on? Like, where's your data? What's your facts? They don't have it. They just want to sell headlines because it's negative. We just talked about that in the first part of the show, right? So, but now with President Trump, he wants to come out and say, hey, listen, we're going to have people buy up to $200 million worth of bonds. And to buy out the bonds, that's going to attract the mortgage rates to come down. But folks, even if that happens, and it takes about a 4 to 6 month effect to happen after the fact, kind of like an earthquake, you don't feel the aftershock until later on. So in this instance, there is going to be no earthquake in that capacity, because the max, let's say if we were at 6% interest rate at the time that all takes place, and now we're 6 months down the road, what happens? Maybe you get a 0.25% drop. Maybe at the max you hit that. So now you go from 6% interest to 5.75% interest. So, I mean, is it a change 0.25%? Well, it depends upon how you look at it, but do you think it's going to go from 6 to 5 or 6 to 4.5? Absolutely no way. Will it even go to 5.5? I would love to see it go to 5.5. We talked about that before. I had my candles lit. I said, please let it be 5.5. It'll be a beautiful rain shower of people making money and buying property, and everybody's happy. But yeah, I just don't foresee that in the near future, folks. I mean, we're still going to tread along at 6, maybe hit 5.75%, but really bad economy, and you have to have high inflation to have that, and we're not even at that level. So,
is that possible?
Possible. It's 100 to 1 shot.
Because right now, we talked about before, real estate sales, and again, it could be happening in your country, city, and state, is based upon terms, not the price. I mean, sellers think that the price is the price. This is what I want. Okay, I get that. You can have it, but what's the old saying? A property, or something in general, as I say, I don't want to say property, just something of worth is not worth unless what a buyer thinks it's worth. So the buyer controls and dictates the terms, because a seller is not going to get a price unless the buyer is willing to pay for that. And when they pay for it, it's going to come with terms and conditions. So this is why, again, we have that quote unquote gridlock effect. And I keep saying that because I want people to understand how the recipe for that meatball that we're packing in all comes together, right? So this is where we're at. So really, again, people talk about refinance. Now I want to touch bases on that a little bit because, and basically back in the day, they were always saying marry the house, date the rate. Well, guess what? When you were buying a property at 7 or 8% interest rate, and now it's down to 6, hey, that's a great deal. A lot of people were like, oh my God, that's so much, nonsense and baloney. With that quote, it was getting sickening. Well, it got sickening for a minute, but those people that actually did that, they made out in the long run because they actually made money and they have equity in their property more so than the people that were buying recently. Because now what happens, they got that best deal. The prices were fairly low, even though they increase, but now they can refinance literally between a point and 2 points. That's pretty significant. When the real rule of thumb is that, folks, when you're buying property in the U.S. and you have a finance and you have a mortgage out on a property, if it's anywhere from 1.25% or greater, it's worth it to refinance because that's going to save you a lot of dollars down the road. But again, now when you see the rate at 6%, the refinance market is gone, folks. So if you're planning on buying a property and you're not buying cash and you're having some type of financial mortgage on it, there will be no refinance opportunity for you. You're going to be locked in at that rate. There really is no sense to refinance something at lesser than 0.5%. It's just throwing money out the window. It doesn't make any sense. It's not a good idea. I'm just telling you that from experience. But this is the reason why that, again, 65% of Americans own their own home nationwide, which congratulations, that's great. And I'm glad you guys are sitting in there and you're working it through and you're making it happen. It's really, really, really important. But that's why with these median home prices, what happens? That means the average buyer can buy mostly anywhere, and especially in Las Vegas. Even though we know the debt outweighs the income growth, we understand that, but it is what it is. So, but people are still buying, and that's what I'm trying to say. And again, with lending and getting a loan moving forward, banks still lend no matter what the economic situation is, folks. Let's not kid ourselves on that. But the main thing to understand here is that they're going to be more stringent and they're going to have more guidelines. They're going to be more super focused on your credit score. Okay, even though you see some more, let's just say creative financing where they're like, oh, if you have a 500 credit score, no problem. We'll go ahead and knock it out for you. But realistically, 70% of the industry in real estate for lending is going to come from what's called a non-QM loan, which is basically they're not going to be backed by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, which is by federal government. So you have more leniency, you have more flexibility. It's going to be easier to get qualified. And only 8% of these loans have been done in 2025, but now it's going to be 70% of the business moving forward because, yeah, you're probably going to pay maybe an extra 0.25%, give or take, higher than what the average. So let's say if the rates are 6%, you're going to be at 6.25%. Hey, pay the extra 0.25%. Well worth it. You can get qualified. You're not going to get jammed up with all these like strict guidelines that these banks are giving you and strong financial institutions that are backed by the Fed government, right? You could get those private loans done. And this is going to be a big, big, big game changer, especially for self-employed borrowers. And folks, it's great for what? My international buyers that are buying property. So if you're a foreign national here in the United States, or if you're a foreigner and you're looking to get a foreign loan or an international loan, I have those programs, folks. Contact me and call me. I will tell you right now, they are absolutely super great. You are not going to be paying like these ridiculous hard money rates, 10, 12, 15%. Not going to happen, okay? These are great, great programs that are catering not only to the self-employed here in the United States, but also to foreign nationals here and for foreigners, and also bridge loans where, let's say, if you have a gap in rate or gap in price and you have to get financed and you bridge that loan, then they also do loans like that for you as well. With, again, the rate's going to be a little bit higher in a bridge loan because the lesser the loan amount, it's going to be higher the rate, but we're talking maybe 7%, not that much. Believe me, nowadays with things are going on. So there will be demand. They're just like Vegas Home Source, folks. We are in demand. And for my international friends, It's now the time. If you're thinking about buying, please contact me. I have you covered. I have the programs lined up for you. I know today's show went a little bit long.
Our arrival time in Chicago will be 10:45 p.m. Central Time.
But it's important for people to understand I had a lot of stuff to pack in, like I told you, folks. And so I'm trying to squeeze it all in for you. But to be honest with you, folks, please, there's no crash coming. You have to understand why. They're not going to happen. Just bottom line. And if you don't believe me, I have more data for you. I could talk for hours about it. But for my international friends that understand here, no housing crash. Things are still tight, low inventory, 3-month supply. It's just not going to happen. You have to look at the data, and that's what I'm giving it to you. So talk to your financial planner, talk to your accountant, file your taxes here in the U.S., folks. We have until April 15th. Get those taxes filed. Be ready to be in position to buy, because still, folks, buyers still have the advantage because of terms and pricing. So it's really time to go shopping, folks. Really, you have to, again, we talked about it. Be strategic, okay? Understand the constraints of the housing market and go with clarity. Go with confidence. That's the best thing I can tell you. So on that note, folks, I said, hey, thanks for listening. I know we usually go a little bit shorter than this show, but I had to give you so much information. So thank you so much for tuning in. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. I want you to be safe. I want you to be smart. Most important, I always want you to be certain in what you're doing and have clarity. So on that note, thank you. God bless. Love you. And we'll talk to you next week.
This is Captain Over.
One moment.
You have just listened to Getting Home Sourced with your radio host, Gianno Buonaguro. This podcast is a registered trademark and may not be reproduced without the express written consent of VegasHomeSource.com. For additional information about buying, selling, or investing in real estate, call or text Gianno toll-free at 888-528-2810 or visit his website at VegasHomeSource.com. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.